Hello, I'm Dana Nye, your host for the series, Makeup for the Theater. I'm a makeup artist and president of the Ben Nye Company. My father founded the company after he retired as makeup director of 20th Century Fox, a position he held for 23 years. He used his creativity and years of experience to design makeup products both innovative and imaginative. He also gave me my training as a makeup artist. Ben Nye created special makeups for acting greats including Rex Harrison, Marilyn Monroe, Lee Marvin, and Marlon Brando. He designed over 500 feature films in 4 decades, including Gone with the Wind, The Original Fly, and Planet of the Apes. My father's light-textured and densely pigmented formulas and colors are versatile enough to meet the varied requirements of fantasy and realism. Our products are designed to work on stage, in film, and on video. At the Ben Nye Company, we're dedicated to maintaining my father's high standards of excellence. We're going to show you just how easy it is to apply your own realistic makeups for the theater. In this series, we have 2 subjects to study. The first is a straight male character. The second will be a straight female character known as a beauty makeup. Watching this program is a great start. I hope that we'll be able to give you some valuable information that you can use to make all your makeup sessions go smoothly. To prepare for each individual makeup, there's some very basic things you need to consider. First, the actual design of the character. Study the script requirements and talk with your director, costumer, or makeup designer. Then include your own ideas into an outline. Even make some sketches. Second, the type of staging and lighting. Is it a large proscenium theater or an intimate setting like a theater in the round, arena, or even a cafeteria? The lighting and color of the gels will also determine your choice and intensity of color. Third, consider your makeup materials. Inventory your kit or the materials available in your makeup department. If you need more makeup, order well in advance so that you have plenty of time to practice. Now, practice is a very important step in the process of doing effective makeup. It gives you the confidence to work quickly and efficiently. It gives you the opportunity to develop your own personal style, and it gives you hands-on experience with tools of the trade. With all this preparation, you can't help but be ready to go. So our lesson begins with a straight male character, characters like Tommy from Brigadoon, Rolf in The Sound of Music, and Curly in Oklahoma. All have one thing in common: they show no visible signs of age. I'd like to introduce Craig McAllister. He's a writer and an actor here in Los Angeles. Craig, how did you prepare for makeup?
Well, Dana, I washed my face with soap and water, and because my skin is oily, I used an astringent.
Excellent. Well, if you have dry skin, it's a good idea to use a moisturizer, say 15 minutes before the makeup. I'd like to say that I rarely use a moisturizer, though, so unless your skin's really dry, you can probably apply the makeup directly without it. We use makeup for a number of reasons. Lighting makes the actor look very flat. Makeup gives dimension and color and texture. I'm going to tell you just about everything that I can about what I'm doing. And the very first thing I'm going to do is pick up the sponge. This is an excellent way to apply the makeup. This is a 3x4 inch latex foam sponge. It has 2 smooth manufactured edges. And I suggest that you apply the makeup with those smooth edges as opposed to the middle of the sponge, which has lots of texture, and after a while it'll decompose on you. It's a good idea to have a nice pair of utility scissors, and they're good for cutting up sponge. So I'll cut my sponge up into quarters, and then the quarters into 1/8. And sometimes the 1/8 can be cut up even smaller into little sections like this. So the sponge is a real handy way to apply the makeup. Now I'm going to use a foundation. This foundation is a cream style makeup. It's densely pigmented. It has just enough oil to make it spread, and it's light textured. Now the foundation adds color to the face. It evens out the skin tone and also provides a medium to blend the other basic components, which are rouge, highlights, and shadows. So I'm going to start here on Craig at his forehead, and where you start, it's up to you, as long as you're consistent. And what we're doing, as I said, we're adding color to Craig's face. His natural skin tone is washed out underneath the lighting. And are you wearing contacts?
Yes, I am.
Okay. If you're making someone up, if you're on the makeup crew, always check to see if they're wearing contacts, because you can disturb them, you can knock them out of place. So I'll try and be very gentle over Craig's eyes. And I'm just going to go section by section. Now this cake of makeup, now this is not a pancake, this is a cream cake, contains a ½ ounce, and one of these should apply about 50 applications, so a little bit goes a long ways. You'll notice that as I start, I'm not beginning here and going all the way around like that. Work section by section, and you'll find that the makeup lasts a long time. Now, it's important that you don't stop the makeup right at the jawline, because if you do, it'll look like a mask. And I bet you've been sitting in a theater sometimes and you've seen an actor that just doesn't have enough makeup on the neck. So make sure that you do the ears, the neck, later on possibly the hands if they're too light. Now what I'm doing here, this is kind of a patting motion, patting, lightly rubbing, and you can see that we're giving Craig a nice healthy skin tone. Look at. Okay, let your actor know what you're doing so you don't catch them off guard. It's very important, and they'll like you for it. Turn. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up the base now, following the, basically I'm starting again on this side of the forehead. Close. So at this point the base is just about done. It's important that at this point you look to see that the base is on nice and even. If you find a little light spot, for instance right up here above the eyebrows, take care of it now. If it's uneven or if it's blotchy, if you put on too much makeup, it's going to be that way right till the end. So at each step along the way, take care of what is at hand, and the first step here, of course, is putting down a nice even base. It's important that even though you're working on a big stage, that you blend to make sure you don't have very hard edges. Now so far I've just been using the latex foam to apply the makeup. The color that I'm going to use now is called the Sunburn Stipple. It's actually it's called a color liner. And even though it doesn't say rouge, that's exactly what I'm going to use it for. This is a color that my dad designed when he was still at Fox, and it's an excellent rouge tone. Now, when we use a cheek rouge, what we're doing is we're actually contouring the cheeks and giving them dimension. As I said before, our facial features tend to flatten out on stage. So I'm just going to pat, and a little bit of color goes a long ways. Now, if we needed to make a very dramatic notation of color here, there's a lot more here in the container. But we're making them up for a medium-sized house, and if you need a darker color, perhaps the Dark Tech might be good. It has more red in it than the Sunburn Stipple. All right, so I'm going to set that down. At this point, I'm going to switch from using the latex foam sponge over to brushes. My dad always taught me to use a pair of brushes, one to apply and one to blend. These happen to be a 7 and a 10. These are oil painting brushes. Maybe some of you are already familiar with this type. This is the light cream highlight, and it's a good all-purpose neutralizing color. If you have any discoloration, or if you're making changes in the shape of the face, these are called corrective makeup techniques. And there aren't too many corrections that I'm going to make on Craig today. I may thin his nose a little bit. I'm going to use a little bit of color underneath his eyes. He doesn't have very much discoloration, but nonetheless, let's lay in a little bit of color with the number 7 brush, and go to the other side, and you can take a look at it before it's completely blended. There is a crescent below the the eyes, which is basically delineated by the curvature of the eye socket. And this area right here sometimes is dark. And with my blending brush, I'm taking the color and I'm tapping the edge just to blend it off. Same thing over here. I'm going to take the color and blend it upward just a bit. Now if you wish, you could apply this color with your fingers. I'm just a little more adept at using my brushes. And you can also, if you want to smooth it out, you could take your hand and do that. Now as a corrective technique, I just talked with Craig earlier, and he has had his nose broken several times. And I hope you're learning your lesson so far, Craig. Well, if you're going to thin the nose, if you want to straighten it, you can put highlight on the top of the bridge, and then in a moment I'll use some shadow. And shadows and highlights work in tandem to correct basic imperfections in the face. We've all got them. It's no big deal. All right, another little tip I've got for you. My father, well, he taught me to be organized. He was, I guess, very methodical the way he worked. And so I'm just going to set my highlight brushes down right next to the highlight. I know exactly where they are if I need them again, and I will. Now the next color I'm going to use is called the dark brown cream shadow. I'm going to take one of these little sponges that you saw me cut up earlier, and I'm going to use that in several places on Craig's face. One spot is on either side of the bridge, and again, this is, you could see that you could use your little finger very easily. Tap, 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 and you can put the color down. I mentioned that these were light textured, densely pigmented makeups. A little bit goes a long ways, so be careful that you don't use too much. You might have been used to using some of the traditional colors that are, I guess you might say that they're waxy, or there isn't much color there, and you have to put a lot on. Well, with the Ben Nye, you don't have to use quite as much. You also might use a little bit just on the tip of the nose if you want to cut the nose off. All right. Now you can take your finger and you can blend that lower edge downward so it blends into the base tone. Remember, the third reason we use a foundation is to blend with the other primary components, such as the rouge, highlights, and shadows. So this way you're avoiding that edge. Now sometimes a hard edge is fine. Well, now if you want to do a little thinning here on the jawline, you can take the makeup and apply it. This outlines the face, and I'll follow through and continue it over on this side. Now, some of you might have been sitting there saying to yourself, "Self, this color looks so dark. How's he getting away using something like this?" Well, if you notice I have a little block here. And if you take this color and you soften it, and actually you'll be blending it into the base, you can make a color that's pretty rich in color just disappear if you use it very, very thinly. And so that's why I'm using it, and I find that it works very well on guys, where you want to do just a little bit of contouring, but you don't want to make it so obvious. Now, the straight makeup character has in common with all those youthful roles that no visible signs of age are really expressed in the straight character makeup. So we can sink the eyes in a little bit, but we're not going to, say, accentuate the nasolabial folds, or we're not going to knock any shadow in underneath the eyes. We can create a little bit of a break here at the side of the cheekbone. And if you're working in a much bigger stage, you might want to switch to our character shadow. Some of you are already familiar with character shadow. It's one of those basic colors that's included in all of our kits, almost all of our kits. And it's a mixture of medium brown and purple. You'll see that later in our second series where we actually discuss the old age makeup, it's a mixture of medium brown and purple, so it's much redder. So I'm going with a more neutral color today, and nonetheless I think it's a very effective color. And just back to the eyes, just a little bit of color over the eyes. When Craig is performing on stage, it's very important that the audience have some kind of a vicarious eye contact with the audience. So we do a little shading above the eyes, we line the eyes, which will be coming up in a little while. But one reason we use the color up here is so that the area above the eyes doesn't look as highlighted. We don't want it really light. We want them to be focused right at the center of the eye. Well, at this point, I've used a cream foundation, cream rouge, which was the sunburn stipple, light highlight, and the dark brown shadow. Now, you'll see me using my Kleenex every once in a while. I'll wipe my hands off so I'll keep my hands clean. It's up to you if you want to do that. Now, I'm going to use a powder puff. This is about a 4-inch velour. Again, my utility scissors, they come wrapped in a little plastic bag, and you might want to keep the plastic bag. It's just handy. Now, the face powder that I'm going to use is called the Fair Translucent. Now, the one thing that I want to caution you, don't use one of those pressed powders. They have an awful lot of pigment in them. They're basically made for streetwear. So I recommend that you use a loose powder. Now, our loose powder comes in a shaker bottle, and I think that you'll find that it's very useful because you just shake out what you need. Now, in the trade, this is what we call loading the puff. You know, I know it's very technical, but you know, I might as well give you all the technical words here. Now, rather than just taking that powder and just, you know, going right to the face, you know, like the old makeup gag, or the powder puff gag here, I rubbed it in so the powder would be dispersed throughout the puff, and then it wouldn't all land in one space the first time I pressed it to his face. Now, the key word here is press. Rather than rubbing, I'm going to take the powder and press it into the face, and there's a change here that you'll see. His face starts to look again like it did after he washed his face. It's starting to develop kind of a matte look. Now, if you find that we're going to need to put some more powder on the puff in a moment, but if you want to pick up powder for one little spot here, say right underneath the eyes, look up, you can pick that extra powder up and just press it in there. Okay, look up, as long as we're doing underneath the eyes. Let's go over on this side too. All right. You'll see I'm not using a whole heck of a lot of powder here. All right? Because there's just enough oil in the makeup to make it spread. And close. Okay, let's go over the eyes and set them very well. They open and close during the course of the show. They tend to get oily. Now, you could take the reverse side of the powder puff and just go over the face like this if you want, or there's a nifty duster brush that's a nice way to remove powder. Now, if you want, you could actually powder to the face with the duster brush as well. You can work it either way. But I cut one particular piece of sponge here at the beginning. I cut it in a little different shape, and it's got a wedge to it, and I've got a little bottle of water. So those of you that already have your own makeup kit, and I know that many of you who are in college are already using a kit, there's some things that you want to add, like the utility scissors, maybe a bottle of water. What I like to do is just spray a little bit of water on the sponge, and I can go over the eyebrows and remove all the excess powder that way. You can take the extra powder out of a mustache or sideburns, and this just perks up the look just a little bit. And some of you might say, ah, he's setting the makeup. Well, I could be setting the makeup, but basically it's just to remove the excess powder. So at this point, another little item here, it's like a toothbrush, but it's called a dye brush. So you could take a little bit of that dark brown, cream brown shadow that I used, and you can just pick up a little color, work it into your brush. Notice I use my hand as a palette quite a bit. The colors are very densely pigmented. A little bit goes a long ways. I know I've said that before. But remember it. I don't want you to go to the eyebrows and just, you know, put on the makeup a foot thick. You don't want to do that. But then with the dye brush, I could go back over the brows and I can just darken them just a little bit. You know, they're shaped pretty well. And you can go into the sideburns. And, you know, basically we've got it. Now, I do want to just mention the eyebrow pencil. Now, you can see I've used this one for a while. This particular color is the dark brown. I'm going to match the eyebrow outline embellishments, what have you, to his eyebrow and hair color. Okay, so the dark brown is pretty close here. Now, what I might want to do is just take a little bit of the pencil here, and if there's some light areas, I can just make little etch marks. Okay, turn. How does the makeup feel so far?
Fine. Like I'm not wearing it.
Now I'm going to go to Craig's lower lashes with a pencil that you may have already started to notice is not sharpened with a traditional pencil sharpener. I'm going to just show you in a moment here how to do it. Now I'm going beneath his lashes. This tends to thicken the lashes and it helps to frame his eyes. Now we can also take, close, this dark brown pencil and we can also line the eyes as well. Okay, now another little extra for your kit are Q-tips, and you might feel more comfortable using Q-tips to blend eye color. But if you have a very light touch, you can apply the liner here with the pencil and then soften it. Now, if you're working on a very large stage, a proscenium stage, you probably won't have to soften this eye line very much. But if you're working up close, and I know that many of you who work who are going to school in a high school level, I know that many of you work in a cafeteria or something very intimate. You want to soften that a little bit. Now, the pencil has been sharpened with a blade, and I want to caution you that when you use the blade, be very careful. You certainly do not want to be distracted by other people. And for those of you who are saying, yeah, I used the blade and it broke. Yeah, well, they will break. There's no doubt about it. But if you'll put it in the freezer, this is a little trick that my dad taught me. Put it in the freezer for about 5 minutes. And then if you take the blade, and I'm just going to sharpen it, and you can sharpen it so you have a knife-like edge. Use your thumb as a pusher. If you pull it out of the freezer, it'll sharpen quite nicely. Now, if you're using a single-sided razor, be sure that you put the cover on afterwards. And of course, the other way to sharpen the pencils with a traditional pencil sharpener, and they work fine, okay, except if you want a nice pointed pencil with a knife-like edge. Now, we're coming to the conclusion of his makeup, and there's just a couple of the things that we want to do. You note that we have a certain amount of lining around the eye. We've worked on the eyebrows. Mascara is important, and if you're making someone else up, this is a very important little trick. Have the actor look out here somewhere, okay? We don't want them to be looking at the wand. So the other thing is make sure that there are there's no one else who's really distracting the person that you're making up. So Craig, look out here, and I'm going to use a brown on him today. If he was working in a very, very large theater, we might go to a black or a brown black. Look at. Okay. Now, to go underneath, you have your actor look up. Okay. All right, this just makes the lashes look thicker. It helps to frame the eyes. Look at. As I mentioned before, it's very important that you have contact, even a vicarious contact with the audience, to your eyes and to your mouth as well. Now, I say your mouth. There's a number of lip colors that can be used to outline and color the lips, but there's one very important color that I recommend, and this is called the Natural No. 7 lip color. My dad designed it when he was still at Fox, and when you want a lip color that really doesn't look like lip color, this is it. And it's some of you are some of you have already used it because we use it in all of our makeup kits. It comes in a little flat cake, a little pat in the makeup kits. But what this does is it just gives Craig some outline to his lips. And you know, we're a nation of lip readers, as it turns out. And when they can't see your lips, the audience tends to turn you out, to tune you out. And so the lip color is really important. Now, the next, and one of the final makeups that I want to apply to finish off the straight character makeup is a rouge. Now, you can go back and apply additional cream highlight, shadow, or rouge after you powdered. But you might want to go ahead and use a dry color, and this is called the Coral Dry Rouge. It gives them a little bit more vitality. It gives a connotation of health. It also helps to define the cheekbones too. So the cheek rouge is actually a coloring, contouring component. Now, when it comes to hands, neck, or general body makeup, I recommend using our new water-based color cake makeup. It's very similar to Max Factor's now discontinued theatrical pancake, so look for it. It works very well. Now, to recap the products I used for this makeup, we used for the foundation an M1, which is the light bronze. We used the Sunburn Stipple for the rouge. For the cream shadow, the dark brown. The cream highlight was the light. The face powder was fair. Eyebrow pencil was the dark brown. The mascara was brown. The lip color is the natural. And the dry rouge was the coral. Well, our subject is now complete, and he's either ready for a tech rehearsal or the curtain. And if it's tech, some further adjustments might be necessary. I'd like to thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for our next lesson, A Straight Female Makeup. Thanks for being with us for Ben Nye's Makeup for the Theater.